Beyond our core markets, there's a great emerging opportunity.
The ability to text through good old-fashioned T9.
Before smartphones ruled the world, one name stood above the rest: Nokia. It wasn't just a phone brand, it was a part of life. People everywhere trusted it. But how did a company so big and loved fall so fast? Nokia's story is full of sharp turns and big lessons, from paper mills to mobile phones, from glory to silence. In this video, we'll take you through the real story, how Nokia rose, what went wrong, and why it matters even today. Join us as we look at what really happened to Nokia, true Nokia history. Nokia did not start with phones, it started with trees. In 1865, a man named Fredrik Idestam opened a paper mill. He was a mining engineer from Finland. He wanted to use trees to make paper. Fredrik picked a spot near a river called Nokianvirta, which gave the company its name. He called the place Nokia. At first, it was only a paper business, but that did not last long. Fredrik opened a second mill a few years later. Business was going well. People needed paper for writing and printing. Over time, the company grew bigger. It began to change and try new things. After some years, Fredrik brought in a new partner. His name was Leo Mechelin. He had big ideas. He thought Nokia should expand. So they started making more than just paper. In the late 1800s, Nokia began producing new products. These included rubber goods like boots and tires, cables and wires, which helped Nokia stay busy through tough times. In 1898, another company, Suomen Gummitehdas, was founded. It also made rubber products. Later, this company became part of Nokia. In 1912, a cable company called Suomen Kaapelitehdas also joined the group.
Nokia was a jack of all trades by 1967, manufacturing everything from paper to tires, footwear, capacitors, cables.
These three companies worked together. One made paper, one made rubber, and one made cables. They all helped each other grow. By the 1920s and 30s, Nokia was more than just one factory. It was a group of strong businesses. What's surprising is how much they tried. Nokia even worked with electricity, chemicals, and other tools. They were never stuck in one place. If something worked, they made more of it. If it didn't, they tried something else. In 1967, all three finally joined together to form one company, keeping the name Nokia. This was the real start of Nokia, as we know it today. Nokia had a strong brand, skilled workers, and a brave heart for taking risks. If you are thinking, what made Nokia special? It was not one product, it was the way they kept changing. The world kept moving. Nokia kept moving with it. They were not afraid to try new things. Nokia sold paper, rubber boots, tires, wires, and more. It even tried chemicals and electricity. Nokia did what was needed to survive, which showed how smart the company was. It knew how to stay strong. If one thing did not work, it moved to something else.
Mistakes were made, but they didn't critically impact the company. They just slightly slowed down its progress. Thousands of innovations, millions.
They also knew how to work with others. Partnering with other companies helped Nokia grow faster. By the 1960s, Nokia was ready for the next step. They had factories, workers, and products. Most of all, they had the courage to try new things. That is how they went from making paper to making history. So, next time you see a Nokia phone, remember this. It all started by a quiet river, with trees, water, and one man's idea. And that was just the beginning. The story of Nokia shows one thing very clearly. You don't need to start with high tech to end up there. You just need to be open to change. That's what Nokia did. That's why their name still matters, even today. Continuing our journey, we uncover Nokia's evolution amidst geopolitical challenges. Nokia started moving toward electronics in the 1960s. This was not random. It happened because of the Cold War. At that time, countries were scared. They wanted strong communication systems. Finland was no different. They needed better tools to talk safely and quickly. Nokia saw this need and took action. They started making radio telephones for the military. This was their first step into the world of telecom, a big shift. Before this, they were making paper, boots, and cables. Now, they were building devices to send and receive signals. In 1963, Nokia made its first electronic device, a pulse analyzer, which was used in nuclear power plants.
Various products such as rubber boots, car tires, cables, and even television at this time, as well as announcing its first public offering.
That may not sound like a big deal today, but it showed how smart and capable Nokia was becoming back then. They were learning fast. They were not afraid of big, complicated work. In 1967, 3 companies came together to form one strong group. Those companies were Nokia, Finnish Rubberworks, and Finnish Cable Works. They had different skills. One worked with electronics, one made rubber goods, one made one-handed cables. When they joined, they created something powerful. The new group kept the name Nokia. This new Nokia had many tools in its hands. They had machines, they had smart people, they had factories. Now they could try even bigger ideas. In 1979, Nokia took another big step. They partnered with a company called Salora and formed a new business called Mobira. This new group worked on mobile radio telephones. They wanted people to talk from cars and other places without wires. Then came something huge. Nokia helped build a mobile phone network called NMT. Which stands for Nordic Mobile Telephone. It was the world's first international cellular network, allowing people to talk across countries like Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. In 1982, Nokia released its first car phone, the Mobira Senator. This phone was big. It looked like a small suitcase, but it worked. It gave people a way to talk from their cars, which was a big deal back then. In 1984, Nokia bought the rest of Salora. They now had full control of the mobile phone business. They renamed the group Nokia Mobira. Now, Nokia was fully inside the telecom world. They were not just trying it out. They were going all in. In 1987, Nokia made a new mobile phone, the Mobira Cityman 900. This one was smaller than the Senator. You could carry it in one hand. It looked like a real mobile phone. And something special happened. A photo of the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev using this phone made the news. That made the Cityman famous. People started calling it Gorba. This gave Nokia more attention. People saw them as a real phone company now. During the 1980s, Nokia kept building and learning. They made better phones, worked on better networks, and got better at everything.
And that would be switched on now. Pretty basic. The alpha mode, you just basically punched in the letters.
This period in Nokia's history was full of change. They moved from making rubber and paper to working with radios and mobile signals. They saw the world changing, and they decided to change with it. This bold move set them up for what came next. Nokia was no longer just a factory company. They were becoming a true tech brand. They were getting ready for something big, something that would make them a global name in just a few more years. And this was only the beginning of their rise. Next, find out how one phone, one game, and one ringtone turned Nokia into a household name around the globe. The 1990s were a great time for Nokia. This was when they hit it big. They moved fast, they made smart choices, and the world noticed. In 1992, Nokia launched a phone called the 1011. This phone changed everything. It was the world's first GSM phone. That means it worked on a new digital network. Calls were clearer. The signal was better. You didn't need a huge phone. This was the future. The 1011 was not fancy, but it worked, and that's what people wanted. It showed that mobile phones could be simple and useful, and Nokia was off to a strong start. Then came the 21110 in 1994. This phone looked better and had more features. It had a menu, stored contacts, and even showed missed calls. And here's a fun fact. This was the first phone to have the classic Nokia ringtone. You know the one. People loved the 21110. It became a business favorite. It felt modern. It felt easy. Nokia started to build a strong name. But Nokia didn't stop there. In 1996, they made something new. It was called the Nokia Communicator. This was more than a phone. It had an email. It had a calendar. It had a keyboard. It even had a small screen inside. It looked like a mini computer. It was one of the first smartphones ever made. It cost a lot, and not everyone used it, but it showed what Nokia could do. They were not just copying others, they were making new things. By the late 1990s, Nokia was everywhere. They made phones that people actually wanted to use, phones that looked good, and phones that worked well. In 1998, something big happened. Nokia passed Motorola. They became the #1 phone company in the world. That was huge. Everyone started looking at Nokia. Then, in 1999, came a phone that changed the game again. The Nokia 3210. It was cheap, small, and had no antenna sticking out. It was also easy to use. But that's not all. This phone had a little game called Snake. People went crazy for it. It was fun, simple, and came with the phone. Many people played Snake for hours, making the phone feel personal. Then, Nokia made the 3310. This was like the 3210, but better. People say it was super tough. You could drop it, and it still worked. Some people still have it today. That's how strong it was. These phones were not just tools. They became part of daily life. Everyone had one. Students, parents, workers, it didn't matter. Nokia was for everyone. Nokia became more than a company. It became a trend. It was cool to have a Nokia. The name was everywhere, on TV, in movies, in your pocket. This was the golden time. Nokia was the king of phones. They made something for everyone, and people trusted them. This era made Nokia a global name. It wasn't just big in Finland, it was big in every country. Everyone knew the name. Everyone had the ringtone. Everyone played Snake. That's what made this time so special. But no success lasts forever. Trouble was just around the corner. In the early 2000s, Nokia was on top. They made great phones. People loved them. But around 2003, things started to change. The signs were small at first, but soon they grew big. One of the biggest mistakes was a device called the N-Gage. Nokia wanted to make a phone and a game console in one. The idea sounded cool. You could play games and make calls with the same device. But the design was strange. To talk on the N-Gage, you had to hold it sideways. People joked that it looked like you were talking into a taco. The buttons were hard to use, the screen was small, and there weren't many fun games. Gamers and phone users didn't want it. The N-Gage failed. Nokia tried to fix it with new versions, but the damage was done. It became a lesson in what not to do. During this time, Nokia kept focusing on hardware. They made stylish, strong phones, but they didn't give much thought to software. That was a big mistake. Most Nokia phones used a system called Symbian. It worked well in the past, but now it was starting to show its age. It was slow. It was hard to update. Each phone had its own version. That made things messy. App makers didn't like it. Users didn't like it. But Nokia kept using Symbian. They didn't move fast, and that gave other companies time to catch up. One of those companies was Motorola. In 2004, they released a phone called the Razr R. It was thin, it was shiny, it looked like the future. People loved the design. It became a fashion item. The Razr R didn't have better features than Nokia's phones, but it looked good, and that made it sell fast. Nokia still sold more phones overall, but they started to feel the heat. People wanted more than strong phones. They wanted cool ones, phones that felt new and exciting. Motorola gave them that. Nokia didn't act fast enough. They had good engineers, they had smart people, but they were slow to change. They thought their phones were already good enough. Then, in 2007, came the big shift. Apple released the iPhone. It had a big screen, no buttons on the front, and you could touch everything.
Anticipated gadgets ever, and we were holding it in our hands. We certainly one of the first, but I was the first at seeing it, actually.
It was smooth and simple, and it didn't feel like any phone before it. And the biggest difference? The software. The iPhone ran like a small computer. It could run apps. It had a modern system. People loved using it. Nokia didn't have anything like it. Their phones couldn't match the smooth feel. Their software felt old, and they didn't take the iPhone seriously at first. That was the problem. It was too late when they saw the iPhone as a threat. The cracks were already deep, and they were starting to spread. Nokia was still the biggest phone company, but now the world was changing, and Nokia was not ready. In the next chapter, internal battles and missed opportunities turned Nokia's slow stumble into a dangerous slide. By now, things inside Nokia were getting messy. After the iPhone came out, Nokia needed to act fast. But inside the company, things were a mess. Teams didn't agree. Leaders didn't make clear choices. Everyone had different ideas. No one led the way. Nokia had two big software projects at the same time. One was called Symbian, which they had used for years. The other was MeeGo, which was newer and had more features. Some people liked Symbian, and others liked MeeGo. The company could not decide which one to use, so both teams kept working. They competed with each other, wanting more money and power. This slowed everything down. Instead of fixing problems, they were fighting for control. Time was passing, and Apple and Android were growing fast. Nokia also had something surprising. Years before Apple made the iPad, Nokia had working tablet prototypes.
Today we're going to be finding out, is the iPad first generation still usable in 2019?
These tablets were small and light, and you could hold them in one hand. They looked a lot like the iPad, but Nokia never released them. They thought no one would buy them. That was a big mistake. Nokia had the chance to lead, but it waited too long. It didn't believe people would want phones with big screens, it didn't believe in apps, and it didn't see the future. As Apple and Android advanced, Nokia stayed behind. Other companies built app stores and gave developers tools to build new things. Nokia tried to catch up, but it was slow and messy. Their software still felt old. Then came one of the most famous quotes in tech history. A Nokia manager was asked why they didn't switch to Android. He said it would be like peeing in your pants for warmth. It might feel good for a moment, but it would not help for long. That quote showed how stuck they were. They didn't like Android, they didn't want to use Apple's ideas, but they also didn't have anything better. In 2010, Nokia made a big change. They brought in a new CEO, Stephen Elop. He came from Microsoft and was the first outsider to lead the company.
Wouldn't want to do, and that is introduce some APIs, an SDK or something that...
Elop looked at Nokia and saw the truth. He wrote a famous memo to all workers. He called it the burning platform. He said Nokia was standing on a burning oil rig. If they stayed, they would burn. If they jumped, they might survive. But they had to jump now. That message was strong, and it shocked people. Elop said Nokia had to change fast. They had to stop waiting, fighting, and choosing one direction. But his choice was risky. Elop said Nokia would stop using Symbian and MeeGo and use Microsoft's Windows Phone instead. That was a bold move. Nokia had no Windows phones yet, and the system was not very popular, but Elop believed it was better than doing nothing. Some people say Elop saved Nokia. Others say he rushed the deal to help Microsoft. After all, he used to work there. And later, he returned to Microsoft after selling Nokia's phone business. Whatever the reason, this was a turning point. Nokia gave up its old ways and bet everything on one new system. It was a big jump, and it came with big risks. This is when Nokia bet everything on one last chance. In 2011, Nokia made a huge decision. They stopped using their own software. No more Symbian. No more MeeGo. Instead, they joined with Microsoft. They agreed to use Windows Phone for all new smartphones. It was a bold move that surprised many people. Windows Phone was new and not very popular. It had few apps and few users, but Nokia still took the risk. They started making a new line of phones called Lumia. The design was fresh, the colors bright, and the cameras strong. One model, the Lumia 1020, had a 41-megapixel camera, which was huge at the time. Reviewers said the photos were great, but great pictures were not enough. The problem was clear. Most people didn't want Windows Phone. The App Store was weak. It didn't have many popular apps. Developers ignored it. Big companies didn't make apps for it. Customers got frustrated. They wanted what Android and Apple already had.
I mean, it certainly was a great device. It was amazing, and it has changed the world. It's become one of the best phones ever. But
Even with nice hardware, people didn't buy Lumia in large numbers. Nokia hoped the Microsoft deal would save them, but it made things worse. Sales dropped fast. Nokia kept losing money. They lost their spot at the top. Samsung took over as number 1. Apple kept growing. Nokia kept shrinking. By 2013, things got worse. Nokia had lost billions. They needed help, so they sold their phone business to Microsoft. The deal was big. It cost over $7 billion. After the sale, Stephen Elope, Nokia's CEO, left the company. He went back to Microsoft. That made people talk. Elope had worked at Microsoft before he joined Nokia. Now he was back, and he got a bonus. Many people said the sale was planned from the start. Was Nokia sold out? Some think yes. Others say the company had no choice. After the deal, the Nokia name slowly faded from phones. Microsoft changed the name to Lumia, but Lumia never became a success. This was the end of Nokia as a phone maker. A company that once led the world was now gone from the stage. The fall felt fast, but the signs had been there for years. Poor choices, slow action, and bad timing cost Nokia everything. Nokia didn't fail because it was weak. It failed because it moved too slowly. The world changed, and Nokia couldn't keep up. They had the talent, they had the tools, but they didn't take the right steps at the right time. From a paper mill to the top of the phone world, Nokia's journey was huge, and even in the end, the name still means something. It's a story about change, about taking chances, and about what happens when you wait too long.